Um, what I feel right now, as far as our team, we're starting to get into a flow of how to practice, and I think that's critical. This game is all about preparation during the course of the week, the details of it. We're involved with a look team on both sides of the ball, and I think those guys are giving us a great look. And that's a job that no player really relishes, in the fact that I'm on the look team, and I try to pose this scenario to them. Being on the look team doesn't define who you are as a player. It actually helps you in the fact that we're evaluating those positions because you're playing against our #1 defense and our #1 offense. And I think they're starting to understand that. A lot of energy out there on both fields, so that's a good thing, but still a lot of work to be done. This is a very, very good football team. We understand that. They're very well coached. They relish moments like this where they get national exposure. They're used to playing in national televised games because they've been so good for so many years. They have a great system on offense, defense, a very solid football team. They don't beat themselves much at all. When you look at last week's game, the first week of the season, things happened. They had 9 penalties, but that's generally not who they are. But some things stood out. They had the ball, as I said, 37 minutes. They ran it 42 times. That's kind of their calling card. Defense only allowed 25 yards rushing. So they hang their hat on who they are, and so we have to be well aware of that when they walk in the stadium. Questions? Yeah, he's got some personal things he's dealing with, and I'll just leave it at that. He's, like I said, his personal matters are his personal matters, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. Well, we've got a couple guys, and right now we're anticipating that we're going to play football with the guys that are available. And Hemsley is there, Zach Robinson can be there, Steve can be there. We've got a host of guys that can play the position. That's what makes it so unique for us. I think we did some things on the off season with the offensive line that allowed us to rotate some guys in and out. But we anticipate when Saturday night comes that we'll be full go. So that's where we're at. Which is their experience. They've got a veteran football team, and I've always said what travels well in football at any level is a good running game and good defense. That travels in any stadium when you go on the road, and that's whether it's in college football, pro football. They've probably got a pretty good fan base. I would think, some fans back there, but even though it's not winter yet, they probably travel well. Probably be a lot of green in the stadium, which would be kind of interesting to see. I hear it's going to be, am I saying this right, a blackout? Right. Okay. It's going to be a blackout with green involved. I want to make sure public, doing politically correct statement here, especially for me. So sometimes I get off track. My wife tells me that every once in a while. But that's going to be fun to watch. It was really fun for me, as I said, Saturday night to walk in and see all the yellow shirts down the end zone, the student body, and how excited they were, and the fans in general. So it's quite an atmosphere, and it'd be interesting for me. Never been involved in a blackout, so I've seen them on television, but now I'm going to actually walk in there and be interesting to see.
HU's had quite a bit of success against Big Ten teams here at Sunbelt Stadium, and you've been trying to train in the heat, and do you think that this is the kind of game where that could?
Well, I think stamina is always the thing that you think about in football, and the teams that are well conditioned, especially in the second half, because when you're not in condition, mental errors appear. Drop balls, missed tackles. A lot of it has to do with fatigue. A lot of it has to do with also possessing the ball on offense. Any offense would tell you, if you give me 85 plays against a defense, I probably got a chance to fatigue them, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, these guys had 75 plays on offense. Ran the ball 42 times. You're possessing the ball. I mean, college football is about possessions. It's about what do I do with the possessions I have. It's about scoring points. Defensively, the mindset defense is always this, and it's more difficult than in college than in pro. When you get past the 70 mark of snaps, fatigue sets in because you chase the ball. You know, defenses are built to chase the ball. How do you get off the field? Well, you turn it over, you intercept the ball, you knock the quarterback down, you have to get off the field. And when you're not able to do that, those things add up. Those extra plays add up, especially in tight ball games.
Brian Lewerke, he was in the Notre Dame years ago. Did you have a chance to interact with him, or what do you think about him as a player?
Yeah, a big, strong guy, athletic, can make some plays outside the pocket, does a good job rolling out of the pocket and making plays. You know, he's a strong, physical guy, and all of a sudden, every game you see him, he'll leave the pocket and make some announced big run. Not like 5 it's like 20 yards. Like last week, all of a sudden he leaves the pocket and he makes a 30-yard run, you know, and that breaks your back. Tough guy. I thought he plays through some bad situations and he doesn't drop his head. He continues to compete, and I just think that coming home is always fun. You know, as a former player, coming home. I guess in college as well as in pro football, they get ticket requests. You know, in pro football, people think when you're a pro, you get free tickets. It's like these things cost money, you know, and they don't realize that in college football. I think it's a little bit different. The college players don't get paid, but I can remember many a road game. Like, really? You know, all of a sudden people that know you, kids want to. I'm coming to the game. Great. Can you get me a ticket? You know, before you know it, you got this long ticket request. You know, so he's probably got a nice fan base here locally that's going to come out and support him. That's great to see.
Coach, Arizona State has had a string of successful non-conference games in recent memory, Notre Dame, Wisconsin. What can a game like this do for a team moving forward with conference play coming on?
Well, I think anytime you face an opponent with an established football program, and this is one that's been established for 50 years, Michigan State. I mean, it's an established program. When you say Michigan State, people go, I know what that is. I know what that is. I mean, growing up, Michigan State, Michigan, I get it. Ohio State, I understand it. I think if you're a football fan, there's a burden with that too, because sometimes when you have this pristine name, more pressure's on you, because the expectations of the fan base for so many years, you've been this. Well, college football has changed because of television. So everyone's on television now. Back in the day, there was only certain conferences on television, and they got a host of a lot of the really good players because they were the national games on television, and you wanted to be on television if you were out of state, so you needed to go to one of those brand schools that put you on television. Well, now everyone's on television. But the perception of those teams that you've seen and your father has seen and your grandparents have seen, they still think, well, that's Michigan State, or that's Michigan, or that's Ohio State. So there's a little bit more of a prestigious name for those programs. And so that's, when you beat a team like that, if you're able to win a game like that, it helps you. There's no doubt.
This game on Saturday is obviously going to be a much more physical test than last week. But at the same time, do you really feel that both the offensive and defensive line at least set a good foundation for what they did last week with this week?
Well, yeah, they've got some guys that this is what they do in that conference. No fair dodging. They hit you, and they come downhill. They come downhill in a hurry. They're big. They're physical, and that's the DNA of that conference. Okay, when you watch the conference, there a lot of teams are similar in their mold of interior players, right? That's kind of who they are. Now, perimeter, everybody's a little bit different on the perimeter, but the interior guys are big, physical guys that take up space, that are tough, that rattle your teeth on both sides of the football. So you got to be ready for a game like that. And you got to keep your emotions intact too.
How do you do that, Coach? Because they're going to get shit, right? They always.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you keep it calm when you?
Well, that's what you got to do, and you just make sure that there's instances in games where you take those clips and you show them to your football team.
Are there any things?
That's been done. Yes.
Are there any things ideologically that Michigan State has that you're trying to bring or promote in the program?
They've got an established program, right? I mean, they're Michigan State. I mean, they're in the top, what, top 25 probably every other year or so. It seems. I don't know. I don't keep up. I'm not going to sit here and say I know all the numbers, but you hear the name and you go, oh, yeah. Got a coach who's been there for 12 years. He's developed a program, and they have a DNA of the players they select. They're very comfortable with who they are, and I think that's what good programs eventually want to evolve to be, right? There's some consistency to that. I mean, the one that comes to name in our conference of late is Stanford. You know, they've decided to have this certain DNA, and there's a lot of great teams. I'm just picking them though. I mean, because I played in this conference when I was in the Pac-8, and I don't know if Stanford was considered, you know, and I'm not. And now people from Stanford say, oh, you know, and I get it, but I've watched them over the years. I live on the West Coast, and kind of the other teams have maybe the shinier name, and you hear it, but then you watch those guys play, and they're as good as any team in this conference. And so that's what you're trying to establish as a program. Yeah.
Which player on the defensive side of the ball for Michigan State jumps out to you the most?
Number 99. He's a big, powerful man. He's a Sunday player. 27 does a nice job. You know, they've got some tough guys. I mean, they've got some outside guys that can 48, 96. You know, I go by. I'm a number guy. I remember numbers better than names. So I'm not. I'm just a number guy. I just call players by their number.
What do you think of 35?
Yeah, they got some good players. I mean, they've got good players. I could list them all, but you know, I'm not here to do that.
19 returning starters.
How many did you say?
19.
That's experience. Yeah, that's a lot of experience. Yeah.
What's the biggest aspect offensively that you'd like to see an improvement over in this game from UTSA?
Sustainable drives. We didn't sustain enough drives, and I say that if you're playing the 7th-ranked defense in the country. So, but that's the truth. I mean, you know, we had some big plays, but we have to have sustainable drives. We have to move the ball, and you're not going to get big chunks against these guys. Every possession is critical. Every yard is critical. They don't give you extra yards. You got to earn them, you know, and you can't drop a pass. You can't have a false start. That doesn't work good against these guys. You know, they like you say, 19 starters coming back. That's the whole team, to be quite honest. And so that means some other guys played some too. So and that's why I say they're very experienced. Yeah.
Coach, I feel like for your sake that this week is kind of greater than this test for your team, kind of knowing what you have in your team. Because
Well, I think, yeah, I would say this. I think every week you look for improvement. That's college football. I think you improve the first 2-3 weeks. In the National Football League, you say it's the first 4 games. Figure out who you are, because you got 16 of them. So in that league, it's 4, because you don't play a lot in the preseason. Starters play maybe 60 plays at the most, 65 out of 4 games. So it's the 4th game of the season. You kind of figure out. You go back to the drawing board and say, here's what we are. We got this on tape. These are the guys. Okay, how do we improve it? What are our deficiencies? College football is probably 2. You know, 2nd game going to the 3rd game, you're going to have a pretty good idea of maybe what you are, because you're not getting any new players. Last time I checked, you play with the guys you got, and you can hope. We got to stay healthy because we're very thin in a lot of positions. And I should say thin in experience for the most part. You know, and that's the thing about experience. You get the lesson before you get taught. You know, got to go out there and get the experience. Well, with experience comes errors. It just does. That's how life works. So we'll see.
Thanks.
Thank you.